Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
And I'm David Price.
And David, on this week's episode, what are we going to talk about?
It's a DAC named after me.
I've been looking forward to this for a long time, I really have. It's your namesake. I've got it here. Look at this.
It's the DAC version of me.
It really is. It really is. Look at that. What a thing. What an amazing thing. Yeah. The Chord Dave. Lovely.
Yes.
Although, as you said earlier, they could have called it the David. A bit more grown up, isn't it?
So, well, maybe, because I used to be called Dave.
You did, when you were young.
When I was young.
When you were young.
And then as I grew up and matured, I became a David. So maybe that would be the Dave too, would actually be called David.
If that logic is true, then how come I'm still Mike? Does that mean I haven't grown up or matured at all yet?
No comment.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. This has been out for a while.
Yes.
Quite a few years.
Yes.
In fact, I don't know the year it launched, but it's got to be...
I think it's around 2016.
Is it really?
Yeah.
So it's, I know that's a terrible thing to say, but it's getting on for 10 years old.
Yes.
That's scary, isn't it?
Not quite that.
No, I know. You know what I mean.
It's on the way.
Yeah. Now, that's really interesting because there's a few things here I want to mention.
Yeah.
Firstly, I've never heard one before.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I had an opportunity to. Secondly, I'd say it's probably been the piece of hi-fi I've wanted to hear, which I haven't heard more than any other.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting point. Out of all the hi-fi, I've wanted to hear this. I guess here's my $1 million question.
Yeah.
Why in the last 8 years hasn't there been a Dave 2?
Well, so Rob Watts from Chord would say that if there were to be a Dave 2, it really wouldn't be very different from this one because the technology, is kind of still pretty much where they are in terms of their designs. I'm sure there will be a replacement at some point, but it's not something that you plug in and think if only they'd updated it.
No, they nailed the brief.
They nailed it.
They really nailed the brief.
Got it right first time.
Yes, yeah, and it's quite a piece of kit actually, isn't it? It's one big lump of aluminium.
Yes.
Sort of single lump milled aluminium. It's a beautiful thing to behold.
Yeah.
It's a bit quirky.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual with its sort of wavy lines and sort of submarine hatch.
Yeah.
Sort of views, and you can get a quirky stand with it as well, can't you?
Yeah.
And the sort of volume knob and the buttons are chord-esque, as it were.
Yeah.
But wow, what a piece of kit!
Yes.
What a piece of kit!
So sound quality wise, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing short of. I don't think I've heard. Well, I've never heard a DAC sound as good as this. I don't think.
I've never heard your system sound that good.
No, I haven't either. I haven't. It's been a really hard thing to listen to in that respect, because I'm thinking at some point I'm going to have to give this back, and it's sort of it's a little bit of taste of honey, as it were.
Yeah.
So, but just absolutely amazing. I also you lent me a pair of headphones.
Yes.
A rather nice pair of headphones.
Yes.
And so I stuck those in as well.
Yeah.
And I was really rather blown away. It's the best headphone DAC I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Which, you'd expect for
£10,495.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, you'd expect it to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But it really was absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. So we've used this. We used this in a couple of ways. But mainly we plugged in the Auralic
S1.
Aries S1.
Yep.
Yes, processor.
Yeah.
Which was a fantastic
streamer,
match.
basically.
Basically the streamer.
Yeah, it's a streamer.
Just a fantastic
stream
match
with no
with
DAC.
this. Stream with no DAC, and this is the perfect accompanying DAC, isn't it?
Yeah.
I then used I didn't use the balanced outputs. I probably should have done into my system, but I just used the standard RCAs out.
Yeah.
If the balanced outputs sound better, then oh my god.
Well, it'd be hard to see how they could sound
No,
better.
I know.
Just really good.
So I used the standard RCAs out.
Yeah.
I used you can see I've got my little adapter here, look, for the coax.
Yep,
So I just used a BNC lead in. I didn't use optical.
Yeah.
Interesting, I think Rob Watts recommends optical to use. So, but for whatever reason, I happen to have a balanced 75 ohm cable. Is it?
It's just a standard
coax cable.
Coax.
Yeah. So logged one of those in, and hey presto, away we go.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to operate, pretty easy to set up.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. I mean, wow. I've had it in my system for a couple of days now.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's another level. It's just another level.
Yeah.
There we are.
So, you know, I've heard the latest DCS DACs, you know, going right up to the Vivaldi, you know, that sort of level.
Yes, I know. I know you have.
Yeah.
You've talked about them a lot, actually,
Yeah.
because you know you've said they're pretty stunning.
They are fantastic, and the Rossini, which has gone up. The Bartok, which has gone up a lot in price recently. It's nearly 20 grand now, I think.
Yes.
That kind of, well, that's got a streamer built in, but that was kind of the sort of entry level DCS, and started a few years ago at around 10 or 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I've actually heard the Bartok against the Dave, and they are both superb, I'd say.
Yes.
But I would still personally, in my system, go for that over the Rossini, because it's...
Go for the Dave over the Rossini.
Go for the Dave, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is so musical.
Sure.
And there'll be people in the comments sort of
Slating you for that.
screaming. Well, for two reasons. Firstly, that, you know, the idea of calling something musical is a lot
Passé.
of, well, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't really think it's a valid term, but you know, in terms of its performance, its time domain performance is superlative, I'd say. The chords. I mean, the DCS is superb as well, but this particular DAC just, to me, plays the kind of timing aspects of music absolutely exquisitely.
It's incredible,
Yeah,
just incredible.
yeah.
And you know, and we've talked about this before. Do you know, I still love my Lin isobarics. Okay, now and again, that's maybe a sort of comment jerker as well.
Yeah.
But you know, because they're a real Marmite speaker. But I've always loved them. I've always said something about them. But the one thing which they don't do is they don't image.
Yeah.
Right. So the sound gets stuck in the box. It's just not. It's just there.
Yeah.
Wall of sound, if you like. So Phil
Yeah.
Spector wall of sound. I've never heard them image like
No.
that they do with this.
No.
I mean, it's just brought them to life. Brought them to life.
Yeah.
We played some songs. I didn't do this with you earlier, but I should have done. I'm sorry about this. You should have had a listen through this through headphones.
Yeah.
So I played Ghosts by Japan,
Yeah.
which we were playing on a couple of other systems.
Yeah.
And played it through the headphones. And there's a bit where the sort of sequencer comes in.
Yeah.
And it was just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just I've never heard it sound that good
Yeah.
ever.
Those kind of dum, dum,
That's
dum.
it, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that detail was there,
Yeah.
but it was more about where it was coming from as well,
Yeah.
and I don't know how it does it, but
Yeah.
it just makes those instruments image incredibly well.
Yeah.
You shut your eyes and you are there. You know, you really are there, and phenomenal bit of kit.
Yeah, so it does so many things so well. So you've got the time domain aspect, as I was saying, and I played. We played a bit of kind of house music, but K-Class's Rhythm is a Mystery.
Yeah,
which
that
is
sounded
a
amazing.
great stomper of a kind of old house tune from the early 90s.
Yes.
And it's got some sort of panned electronic snare sounds, and just the way it knitted those together was amazing.
Sure.
And I've never heard that on any other DAC.
Amazing.
And then, as you say, the sound staging is spectacular.
Yes.
Massive out of the box sound, but it's not just that. It's not just it sounds big. Within the recorded acoustic, as you could say, everything is located incredibly precisely, isn't it?
Incredible.
So it's just absolutely nailed in space, you know.
And I'll tell you something really interesting as well. So I played you a song. I played you a song by a band called Jungle, called Back in '74, which is quite a cool tune, but more my daughter's era than mine, dare I say. And I think you really enjoyed it, having never heard it, ever heard it before. Yeah. And that's what this does. It kind of brings the songs to life. Yeah. It's a bit like going to see a really good band, and they're just playing in front of you, and they're playing music which you don't know. But you can tell they're a really good band.
And you're really enjoying it.
And you're really enjoying it.
Even though
it's unfamiliar music. It does that brilliantly. And of course, then when you play songs you do know, you hear things you haven't heard before, and it's presented in a way which is again
Yeah.
pretty, new and fresh.
Yeah.
Even for old songs.
Well, the other thing is that you've got the time domain, you've got the imaging, that's amazing. The fine detail resolution is incredible, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
So you just get right into the recording.
You really do.
And the other thing is the kind of texture of the instruments being used.
Yes. Well, you said that piano actually sounds like a piano, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you were absolutely right.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these things, they were just like 1644 type stuff, weren't they?
Yeah. It handles anything.
Yeah. You don't kind of listen to a kind of CD quality recording thinking, oh, if only I had the high res.
No.
Just everything just springs to life.
It really does.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. This has been out for a while. There's been a billion reviews on this.
Yeah.
And there's probably people thinking, we've heard all this, but I hadn't heard it.
Yeah.
And I'm gobsmacked as to how good this is. What did you say? I might have to sell a car.
Well, might have to sell an XJS or something to...
You said the Volvo. You said you'd sell the Volvo. Oh, actually, while we're on that subject, somebody put in the comments last week, you didn't say which Volvo you had. I wonder if you would be kind enough to...
C70 2.5 turbo.
There we are. And they also asked which Lexus I was talking about. And I have a 15-year-old IS200, I think it's called is it a Sportback or I don't know, something. Sport Cross. There we go.
There you go.
Yes, in gold.
So sadly, the money from your Lexus and my Volvo would not buy that.
No. my Lexus is worth about 400 quid.
Yeah.
It costs more to tax it every year than it's worth.
Oh.
But, somehow we sort of rob a bank or beg, steal or borrow, I think, to have one of those. I'd love one. Okay, so look, let's talk a little bit more technical.
Yes.
Obviously, we talked about outputs.
Yeah.
So you've got balanced outputs and you've got your RCAs, and then everything's about input.
Yeah.
And there's a billion inputs on here. I mean, there are
quite a few.
There are 4 coaxial inputs on here, and then you've got multiple opticals.
Yeah.
You can connect it to the M scaler.
Yeah.
God knows how much difference that would make. I mean, this is it's sort of frying my brain a bit. So you can do all of these things. And here's my but. Here's my really only downside.
So this is like the I thought of a name for this section of the riff. It's Mike's Moan.
It's Mike's Moan.
Mike's
Moan.
Yeah.
It is. Actually, I've got 2.
Oh God.
I've got 2.
All right.
The remote's a bit cheap.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The remote's a bit cheap, which is a bit of a shame for such a premium product.
Yeah.
But there we are. Is what it is.
Yeah.
I can live with that. I'm glad it's got one. But here's my moan. If I bought one of these, I'd also have to have a preamp as well, despite this having a lovely preamp.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because I have a turntable with a phono stage, an external phono stage, phono amplifier, and I've got nowhere to plug it in.
Yeah.
And for me, that really is a problem.
Because some DAC, because this is basically supposed to be a DAC preamp.
It's a DAC preamp. It's got a lovely volume control. And it passive works really well.
So
etc.
Absolutely. So you could use it as a direct DAC out, or there's a preamp variable out, isn't there?
Yep.
But what there is not, and there is with some DACs we've tried,
Auralic,
like the Auralic. Yeah. They've got a RCA line in.
Just one, just one pair. That's all. Just a left and a right, so I can plug my turntable in, and I'm happy as Larry. So,
there you go.
Imagine that with this.
Yeah.
Do you know? I honestly think I'd buy one if it had that.
Yeah,
I really would.
Would you sell the Lexus, Mike?
I'd probably be able to buy an interconnect with the money from the Lexus.
Yeah, well, that would pay for the remote or something.
It would. It would. So how would I do it? Here's my $1 million question then. So I could have let's say, for example, I have my lovely Auralic transport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Streaming transport.
Plug it into the Dave.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to then go into DAC mode.
Yeah.
And have my 3-volt fixed output into a preamp.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to have another preamp with a volume control.
Yeah.
Remote.
Going into your power amps.
Going into my power amps. So it's just kind of like one extra bit of kit, isn't it? Which is a bit of a shame. Yeah. Now, Interestingly, now, so I've got this name.
Yeah.
I've got this name streaming preamp.
Yes.
So
Unity Atom
the Unity Atom headphone edition, which is really good.
Yeah.
Except the problem with that is it doesn't have an analog input.
Yeah.
You have to always go through the DAC. So if I plug this in to that,
it's got an analog input, but it converts it to digital.
Yeah. So I'd have this lovely input going in, and then having it reconverted by the name into digital, and that would kill the sound.
Mike, you have such a hard life, you know. I mean, I hope some people from Ukraine are watching this, because I think they'd feel, you know, that they're having a hard time at the moment, and they would feel your pain. Existential.
The thing is, none of it's real. I can't afford to buy one of these. This is all totally. This is the most hypothetical conversation I've ever had in my entire life.
Yes.
We're talking about selling a £400 Lexus to buy an 11 grand DAC. It's priceless.
And basically, as soon as you got over the shock of how good it sounded, you thought, "Oh, I can't use it in my system because
Exactly.
I have to get an analog preamp."
Exactly. Do you remember the old QED passive
Yes.
passive preamps, which cost about £1?
Yes.
I could use one of those with it. It would work well.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I think you're taking it very well, Mike. You know, I mean, the shock of realising this doesn't have RCA line-ins that are switchable. You know.
No, you don't understand. This is my justification for not buying something I can't afford.
Okay, well,
so you know,
what along with you not being able to afford it.
This is like me saying, you know, that Lamborghini's amazing, but I wouldn't be able to get it over the speed hump in Tesco.
Yes.
So I won't buy one.
Yes.
You know, it's the same thing. It's totally irrelevant.
But you're very passionate about that, though, aren't you? You know,
well,
like,
yeah, I know.
Damn,
but I can see that being a problem for people. I really
the new
can. You know,
Lamborghini, whatever it is, Aventador or something comes out.
Yes.
Like, damn, I can't get over the speed bump. You know,
no.
Forgetting the fact that it costs 350 grand.
And I'm never going to own one. Yes, yeah. But
so, viewers, please spare a thought. You know, when you,
I need a drink.
If you, he's really upset about this, I have to say. But you know, if anyone from Chord Electronics is listening, if there is a Dave 2 or a David, or you could even call it the Chord Mike.
Now there we are.
So
with
a special version for you.
Analog inputs. One pair of analog inputs. So I put my Lin into it, and it's called the Chord Mic.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. Inspired idea. There we go.
But feel his pain, viewers.
There we are.
He's really kind of contorted inside about this inability to hook up his LP12 via a phono stage and play it out through this.
Do you know what I've noticed on this?
What?
It doesn't say Dave on it anywhere. No, it doesn't, honestly. It doesn't say Dave on it anywhere. Absolutely anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should sign it. I've got a ballpoint. I've got a Sharpie. You should sign it.
Right.
And then it'll be...
Or maybe engrave it, etch it into the
And then when we give it back to Rob Watts, he'll be really chuffed with that.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Well, you can pay the invoice, Mike. So, one slightly damaged Dave 1.
Yes, yes. So look, you've met Rob Watts on many occasions.
Yes.
I haven't had the pleasure.
Yeah.
But I'd like to sort of say, you know, congratulations. This is really very special.
Yeah. It's a shame about the lack of it.
Oh God, here we go. Rob, you're going to kill me for that. If we ever meet, you're going to tease me for that, and I don't mean you to, because it really is something amazing. Yeah. It is you know, just wow, a wow DAC.
Yeah.
It's a wow DAC.
It is, and it's. I mean, I think that the mark of a great DAC is that you're not aware you're listening to digital audio.
Yes.
And you know, I know that we have many viewers who are like totally into digital, and you know, and think people who like turntables are a bit weird, and in some cases they may be right, you know, but you know, some of us of a certain age, we grew up with analog. We're used to really good sounding turntables. We suffered in our 20s to buy LP12s and things like that,
yes.
And virtually had no social life for years whilst we were paying it back or whatever. So, you know, we're very much into analog, and so I think that if you've come from a kind of high-end analog sound background, a lot of DACs just sound quite mechanical. They sound
They do.
processed, don't
Yes,
they?
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And to me, as turntables get better, they in some ways sound closer to really good digital audio. And as DACs get better, they sound really good to
Interesting.
to turntables.
Interesting.
Analog.
It's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, and the lovely thing about analog is it does. If you're assuming you've got a decent turntable, it flows very well. It sounds very kind of organic and very lively and unforced, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
And that does that to me.
It does. Yeah.
Better than pretty much anything I've heard.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, loads of people in the comments saying we hate Chord DACs, and because there are some haters out there, I know.
Sure.
But I would just say listen to one and see what you think, because it is a really special product.
Yeah, I think it's more than that as well, and I think this is actually quite a difficult thing to do. What I'm going to say next, I've been really lucky today to just sort of plonk this down into my system.
Yeah.
So this fits in with my strange old 80s system of exposure amplifiers and Lin speakers and God knows what.
Yeah, isobarics and exposures.
Millions of them,
lots of
fours
them.
and fives,
Yeah.
and God. Anyway, so my point which I'm making is, if you've only listened to one of these at a hi-fi show and you've thought, actually that's not worth 11 grand or £10,500, then you're probably right, because they sound terrible at hi-fi shows.
Yes.
And so does sort of pretty everything else that's high end. When we were at the Bristol show, Lin had a system, and the Lin system with all of the components together came to nearly £500,000. So for that sort of money, that should be the best hi-fi you've ever heard by miles. But it wasn't, because the room is so poor, and they're really up against it.
Yeah.
And the irony is sometimes the really cheap systems at hi-fi shows sound the best, because you're saying it was only £2,000 and it's making all this lovely noise.
And you've got about sort of 70 dB of ambient noise.
Oh,
and
I know.
Awful
people chatting in the room.
Mains and
yes, they're totally up against it.
Yeah.
Dreadful Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is, I've had the opportunity, say, to stick this in my system.
Yeah.
And putting it in my system, which I know really well,
Yeah.
has blown me away.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what you need to do. So if you are a bit of a Chord hater, then honestly, the advice I've got, and I mean this please take this in the spirit of meant, don't knock it till you've tried it, because wow, I've tried it today and it's something.
Yeah.
It's really something special.
I've heard it quite a few times. I've got several friends who've got them, and I've heard them at Dems and all over the place, and always sounds really nice. But I think what you said is really true. When you hear something in the context of someone's system that you know very well, and that you've heard so many other things, i.e. your system or your friend's system, then yes, it's very, very hard to argue with.
Yes,
I think.
yeah. And look, my advice to you would be, I think you should just leave this with me for a bit, because seriously, because if you take this home and put it into your system and compare it to your TT2, you might be selling your Volvo. And I'd hate that. It's lovely, your Volvo. So I'm, don't.
Mike, that's not what you said about my Volvo.
No, I've changed my mind.
Okay.
I've changed my mind in the last 24 hours.
Well, put it this way: that DAC could buy about 6 or 7 of my Volvos.
Yeah, this would buy I don't know, I can't do the maths. 20 Lexus or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There we are. Let's do a riffometer on it.
Yeah.
Go on.
So
Go for it.
I'm going to give it a 10.
Are you?
Yeah, because I think I'm not too bothered about the fact it doesn't have a RCA analog line input.
No, it's just,
because I use a preamp with a power amp, so I'd have that in DAC mode, and and we had on another riff we've done the as you said the Auralic Aries S1 streamer.
Yes.
And that's fantastic, and it's worked brilliantly. So this could hypothetically be a very good solution for me.
Yeah, it would be perfect for you.
And
it would be.
Yeah. So I can't see anything bad about it, really.
No.
Maybe
I'd love to hear this in your system.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe if there is a Dave 2 whenever it comes out, or a David or a Mike,
Dave and Mike
with the analog option, then I can't see how it's really going to be hugely better. It may have a more modern look about it, but the sort of bare bones, the engine, as it were, inside, I think is going to be very similar. It's still one of the very best DACs in the world, I think.
Yes.
And, and maybe because of that, you could say it offers good value for money, even though it's hugely expensive.
I think it's staggeringly good.
But there are a lot more expensive DACs than that are, I think, are not as good, or certainly in some respects.
No, I agree with everything. I've just still got to give it a 10.
Okay.
I've still got to give it a 10, even
After
though
all you said about
I know that's how good it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is how good it is. That is how blown away I am with this piece of kit. I could live without that. It would cost me whatever it would cost me to go and buy a preamp as well.
Yeah.
But wow, it would be worth it. It really would.
Well, you could use the preamp section from that old NAD 3020.
Chris Franklin would be very impressed with
He
that.
would.
He'd say that's absolutely fine. Better than the SP10,
Indeed.
SP9 audio research.
That would be a combination that no one else has ever.
Yeah. Well, that's now, and welcome to Hi-Fi Riff.
Exactly.
Because that's what we do.
We certainly do a lot of those weird combinations.
We certainly do.
Yeah.
And look forward to more of those in the future. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this episode. And it's been an absolute pleasure and a very special episode, I think. Long overdue for me.
Yes.
8 years overdue for me.
Yes.
So there we go.
Well, I'll let you listen to another good DAC in 8 years' time.
Absolutely. And on that note, you heard it here first. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.